All right, hello everyone. Welcome to today's session. Glad to see so many of you joining us today. My name is Drew Demokis, and today I'm joined by Thomas Haas, pre-sales consultant from Configit, who's going to be leading today's presentation. Also joining us today is Jerome Moret-Delaunay, technical specialist for industry. So to quickly break today's session down, we're going to begin today with a brief overview of Unity, real-time 3D, and Forma. Then we're going to continue on to our main topic. Today's talk will focus on how Unity, Forma, and Configit ACE integrate to create an immersive 3D configuration experience for the most complex products on the market. Don't worry about taking any notes, as this session is going to be recorded, and there's going to be an email sent out later containing links to resources mentioned in today's talk. Afterwards, we'll open things up for live Q&A, but if anyone has any questions at all during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A function here on Zoom. Now, if you are joining us for the first time, at Unity, we believe the world is a better place with more creators in it. Unity is the world's leading platform for creating and operating interactive real-time 3D content. Our platform provides a comprehensive set of software solutions to create and operate interactive real-time 2D and 3D content for a number of different devices. Let's take a quick look at real-time 3D in action. My videos load here. These are just a few of many examples showcasing products and machines. You can see the diversity of experiences that Unity enables, from interactive 3D storytelling to entire virtual showrooms to extended reality experiences in AR or VR. And to make things even easier to create experiences like these, we've introduced Unity Forma. Unity Forma can help you create a more efficient and dynamic creative pipeline for marketing and selling your products. Forma empowers marketing professionals to quickly create and publish marketing content and interactive experiences from 3D product data without needing to learn the intricacies of Unity or how to code. With Forma, you can import and visualize model and variant data and manage access with creative partners, create digital marketing content and interactive 3D experiences from a master model, and publish to key marketing touchpoints and channels. Now, if you'd like to know more, a number of sessions from last year's Forma webinar series that are available at the link at QR code here, as well as at resources.unity.com if you'd like to get caught up following today's session. But with that, I'd like to hand things over to today's speaker, Thomas Haas. So Thomas, if you're ready, take it away.
So first, I would like to do a small recap of what was talked about at a joint webinar on November 23rd, 2021. It was a joint webinar with David and Henrik from Unity and Configit. So first of all, this is the challenge that Configit solves, the configuration lifecycle management challenge. The fact that you have a lot of different silos, disconnected divisions and systems in a company. And for instance, in the terms of today, we are going to show a skid loader. So let's use that as an example. Typically, if a company, the engineering starts creating the product, that could be the skid loader. You know, what are the tracks and wheels you can mount on it? What kind of equipment can you mount on the skid loader? All the technical stuff. When that's done, they will have to send all this information to sales, and they will have to re-enter all this information, for instance, in the CPQ system. They may also add more rules in terms of, you know, what colors do we sell in different markets, et cetera, et cetera. And the same about manufacturing and service. They also have information that are related to their processes, and they have to get this information. And typically this is via Excels and PDFs and Word documents flying back and forth. This is a very time-consuming and error-prone situation, and companies, they strive to solve this challenge. So what Configit has done is to create a solution called Configit ACE, which has a central modeling environment, which allows these different divisions to collaborate on the same data set. That means that now engineering can define the skid loader and all the technical aspects of it and the technical rules. And then as soon as they have created tracks, wheels, body colors, cabin colors, sales can start saying, in Germany, we only want to sell the orange cabin. And they can also start making pack rules and say, we actually want to offer some packs, maybe a rough terrain pack and a smooth terrain pack. And they can start doing that as soon as engineering has added those variant sets in the modeling environment. The same about manufacturing, service, installation, transport. Also, transport may differ depending on the configuration of the product and the skid loader. If they have a big equipment, for instance, a sweeper attached in front of it, it may require a bigger truck than if they just have a small bucket. So all these people across the organization can then collaborate on the same data sets. The concept in the center of the Configit engine sits what is called our patented VT technology, virtual tabulation, which is actually the technology that has a lot of benefits to the users. The concept is that you basically, as a user, you go in and create some variant sets and some rules. Then you compile it into a very compressed VT package format which you can then use to build configurators on top of that package, which ensures that you always have this valid feature string, the valid combination of variant sets and variants. Those solution spaces coming out of this VT package can be huge, as you can see an example here, but configured VT can only handle it in a very powerful way. And actually, what it does is it gives a range of benefits, not only to the users who are sitting, for instance, a customer configuring a skid loader, but also it gives some advantages to the authors, the product experts, who add the rules inside of the authoring environment and modeling environment, because it can actually capture contradicting rules. You'll see an example of that later in the demo. Now, the last thing I want to show as a recap is that Configit sits here in the center with a modeling environment, which allows these different divisions to collaborate on the configuration models. Unity has then all the UI to put on top of the configuration engine from Configit. And the UIs of Unity can then help both engineering, sales, customers, as you will see today, service, etc., to fulfill their processes in a very nice and powerful way. Today's webinar. So first, I will explain the solution architecture that you're going to see and the process around it. So the concept is that first, as a product expert, sales, marketing person, and engineer, you go in and you create all the variant sets relevant, the rules relevant, the metadata inside of Configit ACE. Then you can, from within Unity Forma, you can, with the integration that we have built between the two solutions, you can import all the data, the variant sets and the metadata into Unity Forma. And you can then from Unity Forma publish it to a streaming platform, for instance, Furious, as you're going to see today, or WebGL, etc. And eventually, the user can now, on the streaming platform, configure the product while the configuration engine of Configit ensures that you have this valid configuration. So in reality, the production environment will look like this, as you see here. The streaming platform hooked up against the configuration engine at Configit. Now today, you're gonna see a demo in 3 parts. The first part is where you will see me go to the streaming platform and pretend that I'm a customer who wants to configure a skid loader. The second part of the demo, I'm gonna play an engineer and a marketing person who are collaborating on authoring this model in Configit ACE, and you will see how it was done for this demo setup. Sorry. And then the last part is Jerome, who will take over and show how Unity Forma can import that data from Configit ACE and how to work with it inside of Forma. So first, my part of it, that will be the demo of part 1 and part 2, as you saw before. Now, first of all, I want you to meet the actors in the demo. And this may seem funny, but actually it's both fun, and I used this hat once for an event that we had for a Nordic customer day. And I did, of course, for the fun of it on stage. But on the other hand, it's also sometimes very difficult for an audience to understand who are you, Thomas, when you're clicking that button. And that's why I keep these pictures, because then I will pretend these different personas throughout the demo and make it more clear to you who I am when I'm clicking that demo. So first, I will be the German customer, and I will go in and I will want to configure a skid loader. And the concept of the demo will be that I show the slide here. I will not talk to the slide, and then I will go and do a short demo, and then we will go back to this slide, and then we revisit the bullets and recap what we just saw. But first, I'm the German customer who wants to configure a skid loader. This is a skid loader, and what you see here is actually what is the default configuration for the German market. You can set up different defaults for different markets if you want to, and you will also see that later when we go to the modeling part. But first, I think I would like to have the wheels instead of the tracks. Yeah, okay, that looks nice. The wheels are nice. I also maybe want different equipment. Let's go here and select the different equipment. We can see here is this is the sweeper. Looks very nice. You can also look at the brush cutter here. You can zoom in and out, and you can look at the product and spin it all the way around. Also, we could take a look at the bucket. Yeah, that looks also nice. And what about the forks? Yes, you can also get forks to it. Great. Yeah, but I actually think I would like this sweeper here. Yeah, that's the one I want. So now I can also turn it around, and you can see this little hotspot here. If I press the hotspot, it can open and close the engine compartment. So you can also have hotspots in your product that can make the user interact with it and see how it, play with it, you could say. Turn it all the way around. Yeah, very nice. Okay, now I would like to go to the tracks here. And we can see here that I cannot get the tracks here. This is grayed out. So this tells me that due to some previous selection, this one is unavailable. The wheels are selected, but you cannot get the tracks. But I would really like it. So I can press the button and it comes up and say, okay, but if you really want tracks, then you have to take away the sweeper. Is that okay with you? And I can say, yeah, that's fine. It's okay. And now I get the tracks. And then automatically it picks another one that is equipment that is compatible with the tracks. So this configurator solution is how the VT technology works. The way that it guides the user, so you can always present all the incompatible variants to the user. And if there's something that the user cannot have due to previous selection, it's grayed out. And the user can say, I would really like it. And the VT technology will come up and say, this is what you need to take away in order to get it. We can also go to the colors. You can see it has the orange color. And in here, we can actually see that only one color. You only have the orange color. There's no other color options. And if you go to here, the body color, there's also only the charcoal. Actually, in the configuration model, there are more colors, and you will see that later. But we have set up market rules that says in the German market, for the German customers, it must be this color. If we had went in as an English customer, we would see that the body color would be aqua instead. So that's why the color is locked to the market in this particular demo case, that we wanted it to behave like this. You can also go into packs, and you can go in here and say, I would really like a pack. I would like, here you can see this is grayed out. This is the smooth terrain pack. But yeah, I would actually like that. But then you have to take away tracks and buckets, but that's fine. Okay, I'll take that away. So now I get the smooth terrain pack, which is a recommended pack for working in smooth terrain that we also have set up in the modeling environment. Okay, we can also go in and change to the outdoor here. If I pick this one, this is the environment. So we can, for instance, instead of the white background, we can pick this one. And now we suddenly see the product outside. Looks very nice. So this is where you could say I walk around the product and see it from all sides. You can also pick another camera like the free look, where you could say you're more turning around yourself instead of walking around the product. So you have different camera ways of looking at the product with different cameras. Let's change it back to the orbit here. Well, actually, I changed my mind. I actually would like the forks. You can see I cannot get the forks, but as you know, config resolution, I can say I want forks, but then you have to take away the smooth terrain pack. It's okay. And then we go to traction because I actually want tracks with it. Oh, I cannot get tracks. That is too bad because that's what I actually wanted. I would actually like the forks with the tracks. So, and I do know that I can get it with another manufacturer of skid loaders, but we're actually lucky because me, Thomas, German customer, I actually know a person working in the skid loader company, marketing Thomas. He's a good friend of mine, and now I will actually call marketing Thomas and say, can it really be true that I cannot get the combination of tracks and fork, because that you can get with your competitor? So me as marketing Thomas say, yeah, I'll check it out for you. So what you saw is a German customer configuring a skid loader on a website. You saw the 3D experience where we viewed the skid loader from different angles. Also, you saw me interact with the skid loader, open, close engine compartment. You saw it in different environments and how different cameras can view it in different ways. You also saw the configuration experience. which was I selected variables in any order. Every time you make a selection, everything that comes along due to rules is selected for you, and everything that you cannot have due to selections will be grayed out, as you saw. And then you have the conflict resolution that can guide the user to say, if I really want this anyway, what do I need to take away in order to get it? You also saw some fast response times, and all this is due to the VT technology, which has the power of these things. You also saw you could set up packs, pack rules. Packs is a way of saying here is a selection of variant sets that are good choices for a particular usage, for instance, for smooth terrain or rough terrain. But you could also consider adding more guided selling questions like overrating temperatures and saying if it's below 0, then you should have the tracks. And if it's above 30 degrees Celsius, 40 degrees Celsius, then maybe the sweeper doesn't work. You could also have such more needs assessment or guided selling questions that can guide the user to the right technical configuration based on the needs of the customer. Now, we also talked about market availability, that you saw that it was particular colors available for this market, and there would be others for other markets. You will see more in the auto. But as mentioned, Thomas, German customer, called my friend in marketing, and Thomas marketing says, I explained, Thomas customer says, I would really like this combination of forks and tracks. Could you take a look at it? And me as Thomas marketing, yes, of course, I will do that. So now I'm Thomas marketing who will go and check this out. And actually, I have already some things that I wanted to update in the model. So let me go there and do those plan changes anyway. So now I go to Configit Ace, and this is a login screen of Configit Ace. You could have different backgrounds if you wanted to for your own company, but this is just the default. Now, this is the main entrance screen, which consists of, you could say, these 4 areas. The modeling section, which is where maybe 90% of users will be working, where you set up your variant sets and rules and metadata and all that I talked about before. Then there's a release section where you release the model out to the downstream systems like the website or Furious or where it's going to be used. And then you can also, there's an admin section where you can set up users, because as I mentioned, it's a collaborative environment. You can have multiple users working in this on this modeling environment. So here I just want to show briefly that you could, here you set up users. There are a few users here. But also there are different, you can set up different roles. And just for you to get an idea of the granularity, I can create a new rule. And here you can see how you can tailor your roles to your company to allow the users to either, download, export, read, run, change, delete, execute, etc., related to all the different aspects of working with configurations over the lifetime of a product. You see here it says work items. The concept is that you go in and basically when I'm a user and I want to make a change to a configuration model, I create a work item, which means I take a copy of the master version that is the latest version of the product model. I can make my changes, and now in the end I can promote it and create a new version of the master. So let me just do that. I will do one, and I'm marketing Thomas now, and I will now go in and do those changes that I planned anyway. So I will just give it a name. This, let's say, update skid loader. That is, it's always good to give the work item names, because afterwards, when you promote it, it will be saved, and also all the changes made and who made the changes will be saved. So it's always nice to have this a good name for the work items in your history and your log. Now, in here, we have 2 configuration models. We have an Aviera car, which is also the one actually you find on Unity's website. But this one actually, we also created a version where we connect to Configit. But here is the skid loader that we want to take a look at. So now I actually want to go in and make the change. But before I check this rule with the fork and tracks, I just wanted to briefly show you here the features and families. This is what is called variant sets in Unity. It's called features and feature families in Configit. And here you can see the body colors. Here we have aqua dark gray, the cabin color. Here we have orange charcoal, and you saw the orange body color was in the German market. You can also see the different equipment here. The engine compartment open close. You can have equipment here: sweeper, brush cutter, bucket, forks. We also have the packs here: rough pack, smooth terrain, traction wheels. So here you see all the variables that you also saw the customer interacting with on the screen. But let me just go into the rules now and look at this rule with the tracks and forks. So in the rules we have 3 rules in here, but I can also just search for something. Let's say it's something about forks that my friend was looking for. And then it finds the rule that has contains something about fork. And yes, here we see that we can tell that forks and tracks are not compatible. This is where it's been set up. Yeah, it's true, it's not compatible, but I can also see that it's an engineering rule. So this is something that engineering did. So I, as Thomas Marketing, I'm not allowed to just go in and make this change. I will have to consult my engineering colleague to take care of this and see whether that is technically feasible to make this offering. But I want to do some changes myself. But let me show you a few of these marketing rules that I already have added. If we go in here and look for the German market, here you can see that I have enabled that all equipment is available in the German market and bucket is the standard. And I've also made both tracks and wheels available, and tracks are the standard. That is the little yellow sign. And also, if we look at the body color and cabin color, you can see that we have made it standard orange for the cabin and dark gray for the body. And there are no other options in the German market. If we went and picked the UK market instead, we can go down here and we can see that here is only the aqua. So this is a way, and here you only get these 3, you don't get the sweeper. So this is a way that I can set up market availability of different offering. Now, if we go back to the rules, I would like to show you a pack rule that I did as marketing person. And here, you can see also they are tagging here. It says these are some part rule, and this is related to packs. You can have labels on rules that allows you to filter easily with rules, and you can search in rules. And it may sound like simple to do with a skid loader with 3 rules. But if you have, like we are working together, Unity and Configit at the moment, with one existing configurator client that has, I think it's 380 variant sets and more than 2,000 rules. And I know the biggest number I've heard of a configured customer is one that had 120,000 variables or variant sets and 12,000 rules. And when it's this size, then you are happy with having all these, you could say, this structure on your rules. Now, the smooth terrain pack, if we go and look at this one, also what you see here, I don't know if you notice, it says effectivity range. It says start date and end date. This was also shown on the variant sets. Everything in Configit has a start and end date: rules, variant sets, variants, because then you can use these dates to phase things out and phase things in at certain dates. You can put it on rules and say on 1st of January 2023, airbag is mandatory in the UK market or something like that. So you can use its effectivity to handle also phasing things in and out. Here we can see the pack rule that if I selected the smooth pack, you saw that we got the wheels and the sweeper in before. Actually, I have an idea. I think it's better to have the brush cutter instead of the sweeper. So I will just edit this and I will change it. So now Marketing Thomas will change this to the brush cutter and say, now I get the wheels and brush cutter instead. Yeah, that's fine. That's what I want. That was one change. Actually, I have one more idea for a rule. Now it's Thomas Marketing, before I hand it over to engineering, because I have seen these skid loaders, the orange skid loaders in the German market with the brush cutter. And I have realized that working out in the woods, that orange color gets so many scratches that I, as a marketing person, I almost cannot stand seeing a product of mine being so roughly treated. So I think there are other colors better suited for the if you buy with the brush cutter. So I actually think that I would like to add a rule that that says that if you select the brush color, then the cabin color should be charcoal instead of orange, because that is better suited for scratches and all that. So let us create a new rule. I'll create there are different kind of rules. It's a big topic on its own, but I'll create this simple text rule that says if we select the brush color, then you get the, instead of the say color, instead of the orange, then you must have the charcoal. That is a better color. Yeah, that is the rule. I need to give it a name. So let's give the rule a name. Cabin color suited. And I'm the one who did it, so it's a marketing rule. I think this is a marketing thing. We wanted our products to look nice out there. So now I'm basically done with my 2 changes that I wanted to do. So now I can actually compile and remember the VT technology. You create all your rules and your variant sets, variants. Then you compile to create this VT package format. And in there lies a lot of information. One of the information is about these, you could say, contradicting rules. So I don't know if any of you noticed if I made any contradicting rules here, but let's see. Now at least I will run the tests. So now I run the tests. Here it actually says there is one failed. There is an error. So let us go and view the results here. And you can see here it says brush cutter is actually expected to be available in the German market. We already saw that. If I click here, it will take us to this rule that shows that it was available in the German market. But I can click the question mark and it says the feature is unavailable simply because of 2 contradicting rules. One is the feature applicability for features, that's where we just were before. Let us go there. You can see this is the one that says you simply cannot have charcoal in the German market. It says charcoal not available in the German market. And then we have this other rule that says if you select brush cutter, then you must have cabin color charcoal. So of course, those are contradicting. You cannot, you want brush cutter in the German market, and at the same time you say that it can only be charcoal, and you also have a rule saying that you cannot have charcoal in the German market. So you have contradictions that you need to fix. And me as Thomas Marketing, of course, I can say, yeah, of course, I see that it's a brand thing. We need it to be orange in Germany. So I guess I'll just delete my rule again. It's just a bad idea. It's not possible. I could, of course, open for charcoal in the German market, but I don't think that's feasible. It's our brand in Germany. So I'll just delete the rule again. So let's not delete the rule, and I'll compile again and run the test again to see if it helps. Now we have 0 failed, so we are happy. Yeah, that's basically it. Now I'm actually ready to promote it, but actually I just want to show you a couple of other ways of testing. There is a built-in configurator inside of this application, the modeling environment. And in this environment, you can go in, for instance, and here I have to set the scope of the configuration model. The German market is set when the user enters the website here. So by default, but I have to set it manual here for testing. You don't want the user to go in and select, and get the idea that, okay, if I'm the UK, then I can get it in blue, even if I'm German customer. You want, there are variables and variant sets that you want to lock the rest of the configuration. You don't want the config resolution to guide the user to say, then I can just get it in another market where you don't want them to buy it. Also, the date is something you set because you don't want the customer to say, or the VT technology to say, okay, but if you go 1 month back in time, then you can get the product in case something is not available. So really, there are things that you want to set as the scope of a configuration session. And now we go in here and you can see, we can test it. We can now go in and we can select the pack. And if we select the smooth terrain pack, we go to the options. And here we now see that in this, we get the wheels and the brush cutter. Those are part of the pack now. Now, in here, you can also test it. You can go in and say, but I would really like bucket. And you can say bucket, and you can see it's incompatible. And then it comes up and say, okay, but then I had to take away the smooth terrain. It didn't pop up with the do you want to take it away or not? A dialog box in here, it does this instead because it has much more analysis information. I can press this button and it can come up and tell you which rules, if there are more rules that are involved in this conclusion instead. That is, so even for better analysis, you have this option. Now, what you see here is actually a view to the configuration model. We have grouped them here, the variables. So we have the packs in a group, and we have the other options in a group, the body color, cabin, traction, and equipment. And this is a way to tell the UI how to present the variables. Now, also, we have the action section, which is where you have this action open, close, which is not really the configuration of the product, more the user interacting with the product. Now, you can have multiple views. You see here, I can have, if I select another view, the system view, which is the default, you could just get everything in one long order. But you could have multiple views, because what if you wanted to have one view for the Forma UI on the Furious that we saw before? You may want another UI if you are a salesperson using the configuration model within a CPQ tool. Maybe you want to expose more variables than you want to allow the customers on a website to access. So you could simply have different views and then decide what variant sets in your product model you want to be part of a particular view. It could also be for service. You may not show service relevant variant sets in this view for the skid loader, but if it's a service technician who wants to go out there and need to know what tools to use, maybe the necessary tool to change something is also a variant set. Maybe you want that to be part of that view so that the service application gets the right information there for the service technician to do the right thing and repair and service the product in the right way. So different views is an important concept. Now, now it works with this new pack rule. And what I also just want to show you briefly is there are other ways of analyzing the model. You could go in here and say, let us look at the wheel variant here, and we can say create. Then it shows, oh, these wheels, they are part of these two rules, the pack rule and the equipment and traction rule, and you can press this little button, and then you get all the variants that are part of that rule, et cetera, so forth. So you can go in and analyze and investigate your model in all kinds of ways. But now I'm actually ready to promote. So I will go to the work item. Let's go to the details section here. So before I go and promote the work item, I would actually just like to take a look at the changes that I made. In here, you can go in and see the changes. Here you can see the different changes I made. I made a change to the cabin color. I added, actually, it's no changes available because I added and deleted it again, but I can still see that I did this. I can also see the smooth terrain pack. And here I can see that I actually added the brush cutter and I removed the sweeper. So this is being locked with the work item. So when I promote, it will actually be shown there, be saved in the environment so that you can over time keep track on the changes, who made the changes, and when you can see it's my name and the timestamp, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, we have to continue. So now I'm ready to promote. I'll just say promote. So now I promote the work item. And that means that I have no work item here. So I now sign out. Now Thomas Marketing is done. So let's go back and look at what you saw here, because this was the massive one where you saw a lot of things. So you saw here about the intro screen to ACE, the basic overview, talked about work item versions, the master. I talked about features and families, variant sets, as it's called in Unity. We realized that it was an engineering rule, so now I had to talk to my engineering colleague to take a look at this compatibility. I also viewed some marketing rules, the feature applicability and pack rules, and I changed the pack rule and also created another rule that introduced a contradiction, which the VT technology helped us resolve. And also you saw some other ways of analyzing and validating the model. You saw the how it could go in and configure. We talked about the views, and we talked also about relationships. Now, in the end of the day, we promoted, and we saw the changes that was part of this work item, which has now been promoted and created a new version of the master. And it's really important to emphasize the importance of this, you could say, checking the tests. Because if we don't have this capability of testing contradicting rules, you will put these rules out to the users, to the customers, to the salespeople, to the engineers, to everybody using that configuration logic. And then they will introduce errors. So that is part of the whole thing about getting errors down, as we talked about as one of the main, in the main title of this webinar. Errors down is this is a really important feature to get the errors down. But now I'm Marketing Thomas called Engineering Thomas, and I just want, this is going to be a quicker job. So Engineering Thomas is now told to go check this rule with the tracks and forks and see if it's okay to make a change. So now I log in as Engineering Thomas. It's actually me again because I can do everything in here, but it could have been a different person. And also, you know, I don't know if you noticed my clothes because I have a shirt and t-shirt, because in a way I wanted to be the customer and salesperson, you know, with a shirt. And on the other hand, I'm also an engineer. So I brought both. So I guess that kind of, that explains you my look. Anyway, I'm now an engineer. I will do the same thing. I will go in and create a work item, and let me create a work item, and I will go in and maybe update tracks forks compatibility, and I was told to go to the rule. But before I go to the rules, I just want to show you another part. There's so much to talk about in this modeling environment, and with limited time, I just have to go in and just highlight some things. But one more thing to highlight is this: you could say the metadata system of configurator, which is called properties. Here we have the properties, a metadata relevant for the skid loader UI that you saw before in Forma. For instance, we have here the runtime thumbnail. This is the runtime thumbnail being used to show next to the variant sets and variants. Here you see, for instance, the equipment, brush cutter, etc., the PNG that is being shown there. Also, there are other properties like game object. Game object is the visual components, which wants to show and hide based on the different variants, sets and variants in the model. And you can see if we go to the equipment here, you see that there are different components, different game objects, depending on what the selection is. And that's why how you see the UI update with the correct equipment based on the user selection. And these can actually be very advanced. We are working with a configured customer now. I mentioned the one before where they have 380 variant sets. And there is actually a very advanced setup with these game objects. And actually these properties can also be dynamic. So there can be logic attached to what is in here. One thing is the logic that you see here based on the selection, but you could also add more advanced logic to it. And properties can be used for many other things. It could also hold, for instance, whether a variable or variant set is required to be selected or not. It could also be part numbers. It could be all kind of information that are relevant. And remember, the configuration model can contain many features and families, not only the ones relevant for the UI of the skid loader and the website. It could be for all kind of applications in the company that reuse the same logic out of the configured engine. Now, back to the rule. I promised to take the rule, and I'll do it fast because we also have a time thing I have to finish pretty soon. It was this rule that I promised to take a look at. Yeah, and you know, I have an excellent idea how we can make forks and tracks work together. So I, as an engineer, I said, yeah, it's okay. I have a slight idea. I have an idea, so I know that we can make this offering now technically. So let us do that. It's fine. So I now go in and say tracks and forks are now compatible. It's okay. So I say this rule, and I could go also, and again I could go in and run the tests, and you have to compile it first. We just compile and run the test to see that everything is fine, that I didn't do anything wrong. Compile, there you go. Then we run the test. Yeah, and we see 0 errors, 0. So fine, we will go and let's now go to the, we are ready to promote again here, the promote section. But here, I want to show you one more thing, because one thing is the changes that we saw before. Here you again see the changes that I made now. if I click this, you can see here it shows in nice graphical overview that I added this one. If I removed something, it would be red. And also to see when I did it, and it was Thomas who did it. But also this update is very important to understand. If somebody in the meantime, let's say that after I created my work item, somebody else, it could be Thomas Marketing, created also a work item based on the same version of the master, and make the change, for instance, to the brush cutter pack, the pack with the brush cutter selection, and promoted that work item before I was done with my changes. Then what you would see here is a list of changes that has been done. It will say, Thomas, engineer, you cannot promote because there are other people who has made changes in the meantime, and you need to embrace these changes before you can promote and create the new version. So that's why this is a true collaborative environment that allows people to anytime go in and do their things, and it will still ensure that other colleagues and co-workers embrace those changes before creating the version of the master. But again, in this case, it's not there. I could have shown the brush cutter. Of course, it's in here because it was I took the latest version of the master, which Marketing Thomas had created. So here I can say promote again, and now it's promoted. So the last thing now on Thomas Engineer, let's just go here. I talked about the properties, metadata, static, dynamic. I talked about I showed you how to change the rule to offer the tracks with the forks. And I also promoted and talked about the changes and the updates. Last thing is now we are ready to release this to model to downstream systems and other processes. So now I'm actually a release manager. And since I didn't have more hats, I found this picture instead. Actually, I do have such a hat from my childhood, but it's just too small. So it doesn't look good at all if it stays on the head at all. But anyway, now it's as a picture instead. So now I'm the release manager who needs to go in and release the product, because we have the new version of the master, but it's not out there yet for the downstream system to use. So now I could, of course, log out and in again, but I'm the same thing. So I'll skip that step and just say now I'm the release manager. I go to the release section. And here you can set up different channels. So you can, now I'm releasing to the ACE platform or the API. And I've created a release that is called demo. You could call it anything. And if I click at this release, you can see here that it has possibility to set up schedules. You can set up release schedules. So every night, 2 a.m. it releases, or you can just do it as here. I've set it up just to be on demand. So I say publish now. And now it actually publishes to the downstream system, the changes that has been made. And I just want to briefly show you, before we now go, and now it's published, and I as a customer can probably get what I wanted. But before we do that, I just wanted to go here and say published. Here you can see all the published versions. You can even also see what the different changes was part of this release. And if I click on the release here, you can also see it has a token. So all released VT packages has a unique ID that the consuming application like the Forma UI can use, either to use the latest version or to simply go revisit an older version that was used for a particular configuration. Anyway, and I just want to also to show you here, if we go to the model, I also briefly want to show the history with all the changes. Here you can see all the work items that has been done, and I can go in and see what was done to this work item, and I can see this was the change to the smooth terrain pack, etc., etc. You remember we did before. Anyway, now we're done. I talked about releasing new product, about different channels, history, versioning. Now, let's see if now I'm the customer, and that's the last slide and last thing I'm going to do. Let's go back to Furious here, and let us just, it timed out in the meantime. So let us just start it again. And you can see here, we can do just like we did before. It works like before, and we can select all the things that we wanted before. But we can also go to the packs, and we can see we cannot get the smooth pack. We really want the smooth pack, but then you have to take away forks. It says it's okay. And now suddenly we see it with the brush cutter instead. Now the smooth pack contains the brush cutter, as we said. But actually, I, as a German customer, I really wanted, the forks. So I say, okay, give me the forks. But then you have to take away smooth terrain. It's okay. I get the forks. And now the last thing is I just want to go here, and you can see now I can get the tracks with the forks. And now I have the product that I really wanted. And yeah, and I can view it in a nice surrounding, and this is the one I'm gonna go for. So we were lucky that I had the friend in the company. So last like smooth rank pack now contains the brush cutter, as you saw, and the customer now can get the fork with the tracks. And what you saw me do here was to make a fast change to a product model and get it out to the market fast. That is when we talk efficiency too. The fact that the time to market is a key KPI for configured customers. And we even have a customer who says, if you read on our website, we have customers who claim that they got up to 90% down in time to market with new products. And we have a customer case in mind, a specific customer who claims that they got down from 36 months to 16 months in development time to get their new product out to the market, a product that you all know. And if you're in a highly competitive market and there are new technologies emerge, new light bulb LED lights, bigger, better displays on the product, and you can get out there 1.5, 2 years before competitors with your new product, with all the latest and greatest in technologies, what is it worth to a company? So that is also key when we're talking efficiency. I think not for now. I think I have to stop myself and hand it over to Jerome, who will take you through Unity Forma and how it connects, as you can see the little icon up in the top right corner here. So please, Jerome, it's yours.
Thank you, Thomas. Excellent presentation. And we have quite a few questions. So I'm going to speed through here the Forma start of the presentation. The key takeaway is, as with most of our products, they are built on top of the Unity editor. The Unity editor itself is a versatile, customizable and extensible platform, which allows you to create custom tooling. One of those custom tools is Unity Forma, and as such, you can tap into the power of the editor to integrate complex technologies like Configit. So let's have a quick look of how this. I wanted to show you quickly these images, which were rendered with Forma render using the Configit configuration model, right? So this is the assets that we imported and used the Configit configuration to generate the as rules and generate those images. So you can use, for example, Forma render, which is our rendering framework built on top of Forma, to generate image on demand, for example, for a 2D configurator, or you can use it to power, as we showed, a fully interactive experience on Furious if you don't want to render just static images. So working with Configit and Unity Forma, again, is actually super simple. Here you can see inside Forma, the main component, which is let me take my trusty laser pointer, which is the configurator settings. And by default, it ships with what we call the dummy rule engine, which basically is a rule that says there's no rule, whatever you select is fine by me. Now, in the editor, we just have to switch this to a custom Configit rule engine, which main role is to pull the configuration from the Configit ACE platform, but also to validate any change with that platform to make sure everything is legit, right? And I'll walk you through here quickly the slides on how to do so. So to add a product in Unity Forma, you simply click Add Product and import a 3D asset. Here, I'm importing an FBX, which is an export, a modified or transformed version of a SolidWorks CAD asset, right? That I optimized for runtime. So this is quite a heavily optimized asset. Usually this is suitable for WebGL actually, or for mobile platforms. And then I exported it as an FBX to easily imported inside the Unity editor. I could have directly imported the SolidWorks file, but I've used Pixie Studio, which is another standalone application to do the data optimization. It's just more convenient that way. So you add a product from either native CAD data or any 3D format that Unity supports. And then a couple of clicks and you can just import the configure model. This is sped up a little bit for effect, but it's actually quite almost as fast as this. And we're going to see it right now. So, let's go live to the demo. So as mentioned here, I'm inside a Unity scene. For those who are new, this is the Unity editor. I am in Pro mode. You also have the option to switch to a Forma, more friendly version of the editor, which is a dedicated workflow in order to make the editor more approachable. But for now, just for the sake of speed, and I have a couple of things I want to show you in Pro mode. So here is the space where I need to enter my configit rule engine, right? So I'm switching from dummy to the configit rule engine. And then I'm going to add my product, select from file, double click on my FBX file, and it's going to show up inside the editor. As simple as that. There we go. So here I'm in the scene view, which allows me to interactively move around the object. We also have the game view here, which is what I see through my camera when I press play, when I enter play mode, what the user will see. This is kind of like the creation mode. So we have our configit set up. I imported my 3D asset, and all I have to do is go to Forma, Configit, and import model. Here, as Thomas highlighted, we have a few versions, like the date, for example, the product endpoint, and the view, which is very important. This is what configuration, what type of, what filtered configuration I'm going to pull down. I'm going to import this, and you can see that automatically all of these configurations have been imported from the Configit platform. And that's really as simple as that in order to pull that data. Now, there was a bit of round tripping where, for example, if the data had come from a PLM, that would have been imported into Configit, and I would have pulled that data inside Unity and do some of the groundwork, like here, selecting which assignments am I going to turn on and off when I select this configuration. Right? So this is really kind of the only heavy work you have to do is to link some of the design side data to the model, which resides in Configit. And then all that metadata can be pushed back towards Configit and then included in the model. So the next time you pull this, all of this metadata comes with it, the type of materials, for example, that we're going to be using, etc. And there we go. So that was the import side of things, like pulling the data inside the editor in order to work with it, right? The next step, once we've done this and the model has been configured as you've seen on Furious, I just have to overlay a custom UI or, use the default UI. But in this case, we use the custom UI created by Latent Shadow for the Avera demo. We just repurposed it for the skid loader. And here, all I had to do was basically pass along a custom runtime UI component, which is then used to generate the UI at runtime when the user uses the experience. But also, I did create a custom hotspot, which I'll be showcasing in a second. This is a configuration, let's say, item. This is an action that we have. It's not necessarily a feature of the model. It's just the fact that you can open and close the engine compartment. So we wanted to include this in the model inside Configit, but it's not something that the user should see as an option for the configuration. It's a user experience action for the interface to handle. Right, so that's the idea, but the items, which are basically shown and hidden in order to show and hide the open and close the engine compartment, those are still hosted on Configit in case they come, for example, from an engineering dataset, right? So that's the idea. And as mentioned, Forma, just like the Unity editor and much like Configit, is extensible, customizable. So in order to have a hotspot that also leverages the Configit backend, I created a custom command, which is what a hotspot calls when you click it. It's a Forma command, and that command basically calls the currently selected configuration engine or rule engine, validates the change, and then returns the validated change, or yeah or nay, you can actually configure this. In this case, it shouldn't have any conflict, so it just basically shows the open or closed state of the engine compartment. Let's quickly go inside the Unity editor. So I have a scene here which I prepared. Let me exit this one. So there we are. You can see my model is loaded with the option. This is the engine compartment open and close that's been showcased. Here, if I go to configurator, I can see I have selected the config, obviously the configate rule engine, but also this light and shadow product runtime. There's multiple ones which are available. There's actually two main UI systems that ship with Forma. This is a variation of one of the UI systems, and they have a data provider, a resource provider, which defines some of the components that are required in order to auto-generate a Forma UI. And if we enter play mode, let me make sure I don't skip. Actually, I want to show before I jump the hotspot. So this is the hotspot that's being created here. I should probably give it a better name than this. And if you look at the interaction here, you can see there's a custom command which is being called. And this command, all it does is tells this variant set to select the next feature in the set. So if it's closed, it selects open. If it's open, it selects close, right? And if I enter play mode, this is also what I wanted to show here. Oh, actually, I realized I forgot one thing. Is I'm going to enter play mode inside Forma render. So I should probably not have done that. That's okay. We'll exit in a second. There we go. Forma render pops up because I had it selected as the default when I enter play mode. Apologies for that. Let's give it a second for it to enter and exit. There we go. And here in Forma, I'm just going to go to Forma render and untick enable in play mode. So I'm not using Forma render, which is a runtime API that allows you to export high quality render up to 64 K pixels. And here we're entering the play mode. I'm going to maximize the view so you have a better idea. And you can see now I'm in Forma proper. I can, as Thomas was showing before, I can select my configurations here. You can see that, oh, the sweeper is not available because I have my track selected. The fork is, before it was disabled, but now it's available. So if I switch to my wheels, this is working. Here, if I select the pack, as you've seen before, right, I get the UI that tells me this, for example, and this is going to warn me that I'm, invalidating the pack. And one thing that I wanted to show is here I'm in maximize mode, but the beauty of Unity is, for example, if I want to work with this user interface, I can also switch to scene view here, right? And if you can see here in the list, we have a canvas, which is the user interface, but that's the F key. I can focus on it. It's actually quite big compared to the scene. But here you can see that while the application is running, I can still access the design data, right? Work with it, tweak it as I need to. Right? And this is really useful when you're developing applications, right? This is the power of what you see is what you get when you develop with Unity Forma, right? Although, so quite a compelling feature. Now, I went pretty quickly because I want to leave some time for Q&A, and I realize we're already over time. And I want to thank you. I want to particularly thank Daniel and Marc-Etienne, who Daniel is from our solution engineering team, and Marc-Etienne is from the Forma engineering team. And they helped me with some of the elements of this demo. And if you're interested, further details are my contact are there, and happy for you to reach out and let us know what you would like to create with Configit and Forma. I think we have some questions, Drew, already.
And we've got some other resources on screen here as well, if you guys are interested. But yeah, let's just get into these questions. First one up here. What 3D formats are used in the 3D experience, and how do you migrate from like engineering design, for example, CATIA V5?
So I've used, this was a CAD model from SolidWorks, which was custom created for us by a company in America. And that was converted into an FBX using Pixie Studio. But yeah, pretty much any format you can think of, we can import either through Pixies directly inside the Unity editor. We have Pixies plugin, or we can pass it through Pixie Studio, which is a standalone application really geared towards heavy data preparation.
So next one up, how was content created?
Yeah, all the data inside of Configit was actually created manually. So I entered all the data. Everything I showed you is out of the box standard functionality, and I simply created all the variant sets, body color, etc., etc. I created the rules, I created the metadata, based on the information that I got from Jerome and Unity. Based on how we wanted this Git loader to work. So I entered it manually, but it's not always like that. It's a small example. It's only a few variant sets that I mentioned. We have customers with huge data sets. And in the example that the customer that we are working on together right now that I mentioned, there, for instance, things are generated out of other systems. So that the variant sets, they come from other systems, ERP or PLM systems. Also, you could say the game object metadata is also created automatically inside of the authoring environment. So Configit allows users to create and maintain information in there, but it also allows to integrate, which many of our customers do, integrate with other systems. It could be PLM systems, with CAD systems that maybe hold the master, ERP system that hold the master for this data and integrate with Configit. So it's all a matter of when you install Configit in such an enterprise environment, you simply decide and say, so where should master data sit and where should you maintain master data? Some of it will remain in existing systems. Some of it will become the natural place in Configit Ace. But in this case, it was created manually.
Next question up here, again related to Configit. Is this an out-of-the-box product, or does someone have to do the back-end programming?
Everything I showed you was out of the box. So it's just work on that. The programming that was done is in terms of the integration to Unity. That was the enhancement or plugin or integration that Jerome showed, where you say import Configit. That piece of code simply goes in and talks to Configit's APIs and load all the data that was sitting in Configit Ace. And loaded into Unity.
And next up here, how are the features in Configit Ace, 3D CAD, PLM as a source, 3D experience like Unity, and the final customer order, part number, PLM source? How are those all being linked to make the overall end-to-end work?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we are talking into the enterprise setup. And this is something, that enterprise setup is something you design together with the customer based on both what they already have in place and where they want to go. And then you decide how this integration should take place and what applications are already there and what is needed. And either you buy something there or you develop something there to fulfill those needs. So this is an enterprise architecture talk and decision once you engage with the client to see how this should work.
And for Unity, it's quite transparent, right? Because Unity doesn't need a lot of the metadata, for example, to do the rendering. We just need to know, what to show, what to hide, and then all that logic can live in the Configit model. It doesn't need necessarily to trickle to us, let's say.
And we have customers that maybe start with just engineering or just sales to create and maybe CPQ application or website where they want to start interacting with one process. But we also have customers who decide they want to go much further. And one example of mine is one customer that said, they started to think of sales, but also they suddenly saw the benefits of Configit Ace and also wanted to embrace also manufacturing. And suddenly they have I can remember maybe 10, 20 legacy systems that all had to interact with each other together with Configit Ace in a huge enterprise setup, taking advantage of reusing the configuration logic across these systems instead of having to re-enter the same logic in other systems and trying to replicate the execution, which is not really possible if they are different engines. So reusing the Configit engine for all these different legacy systems was the setup that they wanted to go for. So it can be small scale, it can be very big scale as well.
Good, next question here, related to Configit. Does this generate a quote as well?
Yeah, what we just saw here didn't generate it was a quote. That was just a UI that where you configure. But what Unity holds, once you are done with the configuration, you have a valid feature string, you have a valid configuration, and you can then decide to save that information somewhere together, maybe an order ID, but it's not something that is sitting in the stomach of Configit. It's something that is sitting in the consuming application, as we say, like Unity. And then Unity can save, the selected and variants, and also that information can be used to feed a quotation tool to present the quote.
Is there a way to map the 3D assets with the Configit modules so you don't need to map all of it manually? For instance, if you have a very large configuration.
Yes, you should definitely not do it manually. Everything we showed today, which was done manually because it's a very small custom data set, can be fully automated. Keeping in mind that the engineering data that's, let's say, integrated with Configit, which will have the part descriptions, for example, like the path, right, to specific endpoints, to specific nodes that are supposed to be turned on and off, like the actual components that can be implemented, at the Configit level, and then the parser, which is consumes that data inside Forma, can automatically map that to the game object. You don't have to manually, enter the game objects, as long as the paths are available and they match what's in the data that we have that's in Unity with the data that's in Configit. Then that can be fully automated. And Thomas, most of the work in the collaboration is around automating these processes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I guess following up on that as well, do you recommend to load 150% 3D asset model, or can you load individual assets to configure based on rules?
So that depends. Right now, the way Forma is structuring the data, you would have everything in a single addressable package, which is basically a Unity bundle, like a bundle of data. I believe in the future iteration, this is going to be exploded so that you'll decide which item will be bundled together. For example, you could bundle the materials, versus the 3D mesh data, versus other information that go into a bundle. A bundle usually doesn't include script. It's just assets that are packaged in an efficient manner to be loaded. So in the future, that will be really optimized to when Configit returns a valid configuration, you only load the items that you're going to be displayed or that needs to be there, right, for the experience to happen. For now, usually the whole model is loaded, which is pretty efficient because we don't render what's not visible. So, although it does take a little bit of space, it's not necessarily too taxing. And then the visibility is managed that way, right?
Okay, looks like we have two questions left here. How complex is it to maintain the 3D relation to configuration rules?
It's actually pretty easy to link the two together, Thomas, right?
Yeah, it is. And in this case, with this simple skid loader model, as you saw, it was very straightforward because one thing is the configuration model. One expertise is to say, okay, these parts work together. Another expertise is to say, what are the 3D CAD components that relates to these different variant sets and variants. And it was quite simple in the skid loader because it was as simple as if you select this, then you show this 3D component. If you select this, then you show this one. But as I also mentioned, this configured customer that we are working on together now with the 3D environment, they have much more advanced. It is like a lot of logic attached to it, saying if you select this part and not this part, and if this is not in this part, a lot of logic, then you have these 3, 4, 5 3D CAD elements to show. So a very advanced logic, and that is sitting somewhere else and being fed into Configit. So of course, you could theoretically maintain it in Configit, but there are hundreds of logical statements related to that 3D presence. So that is being simply automatically generated inside of the Configit environment. And after that, compile and release, and thereby through the API, the Unity can access all that data and get the derived 3D components to show.
Okay, I have a follow-up question on that. Sorry, Thomas, to go off script, but can you, if you have external tools that would influence the Configit ACE model, do you have an API that allows those tools to modify the model?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. Exactly. There are different ways to get data into ACE and also out of ACE. And one thing is we have standard import-export functionality with this standard XML format that you can use to import and export all kind of data. You also have APIs where you can simply create data in ACE and read data based on those APIs. So there are different ways of getting data in, and also, of course, the manual one where you do that.
And that's something common with Unity is, there's no restriction as to what you can bring inside Unity and what you can export. So those two really had, two peas in a pod. They're meant to work together.
Yeah, yeah, and although as mentioned before that even though configurator is a you could say a solution, and together with Unity it's a simple solution and you can do it manually with smaller things. But if it's a huge enterprise solution with hundreds or thousands of variant sets and rules, then you probably want to automate some of the things so you don't sit there and do things manual. But there may still be things you want to do manually. But yeah, you can combine, of course, as you please.
Can you also manage the position matrix to move components when configured?
100%. So what we showed here in the model were custom metadata, like the list of game objects or the name of the material. You could have a position value that you enter as part of the metadata. That could be like a comma separated 3 floats, right? 3 numbers, which will then be passed to the Forma configit API, and then in Forma you will write a custom script or a custom action that will make sure that if there's a value associated inside this position variable, then update the object reference, like the game object, with that value based on this. So yeah, totally doable. We haven't discussed this, Thomas, but the variables that we created, which are assigned to each of the variants that are sent, right? There's no limits as to how many of those you can have, right?
No known limits. At least everything in this world has a limit, yes. I guess somewhere. But
there's a theoretical limit, but you haven't reached it yet.
It's not. Yeah, that's the way.
I see there was a question in the chat from Mark, who was asking how configure change management trigger Unity change accordingly. Right now, it's the reverse. The Unity is pinging the ACE backend and then retrieving the changes. But we could imagine that there will be a possibility to kind of push. Send an event to a client because something has changed outside of the configuration model. I don't think that's necessarily impossible, but in this case, it's the reverse. It's the client application that Thomas showed on Furious is actually pinging or querying the REST API of the REST Configit API.
It could even be a way so that the change management would be. It's not finally designed yet, but it's how it could. We also could envision it is that once you in Forma import the configured model, you remember the version, so you have the ID of the VT model, that version that's being imported. Then you can publish it to to Furious, and then the UI can interact with that one, and you still know the ID of the model, so you could say you can lock the UI to that particular version. Then you could think of a scenario where if there is a change in configured, the next time you open Forma, it will verify and see if there's a new version. If yes, then do you want to embrace these new changes? And you can do that. And then you have a new version of the VT package, which is now the latest. And then you can publish that, and the UI works with that one. So that's one way you could envision the change management to work.
Yeah, and just to tie back all together, this is really where efficiency and reducing errors come from, is having this single source of truth and then making sure that every single actor in that workflow is using the same data set, but also if they cannot adversely impact that data set or modify it downstream, right? That's the main thing, is you don't want a designer in an agency to fiddle with the model just because they want to show, for example, a configuration, and then later on find out that's something that cannot be produced, which could create issues with customers, right?
I just want to know, when we mention efficiency, I just want to mention also that, even though it's of course it's an enterprise application and there's a lot of things you can do there, as I showed today, it's still, compared to the challenge that is solved, is actually quite easy to use. We have a customer who claims that they saved 75% modeling time by introducing our technology, because it's so easy to write the rules. You don't have to think about rules written in a sequential order, any sequence. You simply just write what you know, and you don't care about the order, and then you compile, and the VT technology takes care of it for you and create all the valid combinations in this compact VT format. So it's very easy to use in this, what we call the declarative modeling environment. And there was a small story about a configured customer who had been trying in a traditional configuration environment to enable their configuration model for sale. And And the technical expert in sales said that they've been trying now for 7 years, and they have only achieved 15% of their product offering enabled for sale. But when he saw how it was to work with Configit, he said, I can finish before Christmas with the rest. So he was that confident because it is so intuitive, even though it looks big and complex. For the challenge that you are going to solve with the configuration rules and all that, it is actually quite easy to work with. And that's also why we set up this model. It doesn't take a long time to enter such a model.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for us today here. Thank you so much, Thomas and Jerome. And thanks, everyone, for joining us for today's talk. Thank you again for all your wonderful questions as well. And a big shout out to our organizers. So keep an eye out. In the coming weeks, you'll be receiving emails with links and resources. They're all mentioned in today's talk. And we also have, I showed it on the last slide as well, we have a Unity Forma forum, just a place where you can use the space to talk and ask for help and share feedback about Forma. But with that, thank you again for joining us today. And with that, we'll catch you next time. And yeah, take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.